welcome to Richmond. Is this your first time here?
Not first time in Richmond, but first time at the Galaxy. So digging it. I'm hoping I get a chance to walk around a little bit. I understand there's Belle Isle. I need to see, right? Do a little bit of a walk. Are you guys from here? You'll clue me in.
Do you get a chance when you go to shows to be able to sightsee, to see things? Do you try to set time aside for that?
I sure try. I don't always get to do that, but I sure want to. A town's character. You know it from walking in the old section, if there is an old section, a historical section, and you know it from its food. So I try to get those couple of things accomplished. And if I'm lucky enough to have extra time, then I'll try to hit a museum, which usually takes at least a couple hours.
Have you hit any, like, so for instance, this morning I traveled with a friend and we went to St. John's Church, which is where Patrick Henry did the famous "Give me liberty or give me death" speech. What was the last time that you got a chance to really see something that blew you away?
Goodness gracious, it's been a long time. I would have to say, wow, I would have to say maybe Spain, maybe in Barcelona, where I got a little bit of time, and so I snuck down to. We were working there. We were doing the production film crew, and so they kind of took us in a side door and let us walk through and see the stuff, but didn't really have time to check out the whole place.
Yeah, Barcelona is huge.
Oh, it is. It is. I love the town.
Beautiful.
It is.
Beautiful. Now you have lived and traveled all over the world. Do you? True or false? You speak 8 languages?
I do.
8 languages.
Yes, yeah. That was a result of. So I was born in Venezuela of a Russian father and an Irish mom, and I say I have no temper, I don't tell jokes, and I don't drink, which is a total fucking lie. Yeah, I checked. There's no kids here. We're good. But I kind of I came to the States when I was 10, and I had based on a 10-minute interview. I had an accent apparently. And based on a 10-minute interview with the principal of the school, and at that time, one thing I knew is that the American sport was baseball, and so the guy, he asked me, says, "What's your favorite sport?" I said, "Well, baseball." And he said, "What position?" I said, "Batter." and he kind of looked at my mom and he said, "Dumb kid. We're going to hold him back a year." And so I obsessed on languages. And it was because of an accent and because of, wanting to be a batter, which I'd love to be just the batter. I don't want to have to, do all the catching and running.
Right.
Yeah.
So you knew English prior to?
Yes. So Spanish was my first language, and I did go to school at an American school in Caracas, Venezuela. It was called Gloria Felix School, and but apparently, needed some honing of the skills, according to this guy anyway. But
so that's great. So then you focused on languages. That's amazing.
Thank you.
I'm assuming you obviously have used it in your line of work, but
True.
Have you used it to for fun, for pranks, for when you go to an Italian restaurant, do you order? When you go someplace that's mainly Russian, do you and mess with them?
I don't. I'll sort of gauge. First of all, I'll gauge whether there are any native speakers of the language there, and then I'll pick my moment. And I'll bam, so and it's always I always get these raised eyebrows and it's kind of a weird look that I get, where they're thinking, well, that's probably the only thing he can say,
right?
Of course, but I do have fun with it, absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
And as I said, you probably was beneficial to getting jobs, right?
True that. I honestly believe I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the languages and the accents. I was fortunate enough to, and so for me, just going back, speaking historically now, Thomas Jefferson said, because he was a polyglot himself, said that you are as many different people as the languages you speak, because each language reflects the character of that nation, of that people. And so I thought that was very insightful. And so I took that and to mean, and in parentheses, that so characters and just this new life and this new sort of very grounded, real sounding. I mean, when you listen to an accent and it sounds like the real thing, you just go with it, you know.
Have
I'm
you
speaking as saying that the audience will, they'll believe it and they'll take that trip with you.
have you been on a job on a project in where you were supposed to speak, let's say Russian, and then you spoke, and then the director was like, "No, no, no, that's not it at all," and you're like,
I have, I have, and it wasn't a director. It was it was one of the crew guys who came over, and said, "Well, we wouldn't use that word. That's too ultra correct. It sounds too haughty." I said, "No, no, no, please, school me." And so I'm always willing to, you can always learn something.
"Yeah,
That's I feel, especially with the languages, and today in the break, I've been lucky enough. I go to my Duolingo and I practice, do about a couple of lessons to make sure that that I'm on the ball, keep up with it.
are you anything new? Are you working on any new languages?"
Oh yes, yes, and you know what? Every couple of weeks I'm working on Japanese, and then I get back to it, and I realize, wow, I got to go back to the start because learning the symbols, man, it's hard, and that's the one thing. I mean, if I were to say go to Japan and have a tutor, and just learn from what I hear, learn conversational Japanese, I could do that. I know I could, but. You got to do it right, and so I know that I've just got to devote time and exclude everything else. The only problem with that is I'm very competitive, and Duolingo is a competitive thing, and so this week so if this week ends up the way I expect it to, it'll be 3 weeks running that I will have finished in first place. So that's cool.
Oh,
yeah,
fantastic!
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned finding time.
Yeah.
How do you find that work-life balance between acting, auditioning, conventions, life? How do you find that? And how did you work on that throughout your career when trying to audition after audition after audition? Did that consume your life?
There has to be a dividing line.
Right.
So I realize that, as you say, audition after audition. Once it's over, it's over. Forget it. Move on. You got more work to do. And when it comes to work, to movies and to auditioning, again, a dividing line. Now I've spent these past, goodness, maybe 5 weeks dismantling my brewery because my landlord sold the building, and I understood that my landlord was very cool. I wouldn't have gotten as far as I did without his great help. And so, having said that, it's kind of sad to rip this monster apart, a beautiful monster, and so I'm retaining the trademark. I'll still contract brew in other places, but so again, it goes back to the dividing line. The cool thing about being here is that for me, this is I love getting out, meeting the fans, and it's kind of like a mini vacation. I just treat it like that. I'm away. I can't do anything about what's going on there. And my phone's blowing up with messages. What do we do with this? What do we do with that? So take care of that tonight. But there's got to be that division. It's got to be, today and for this weekend. This is what I'm here to do, and I got to be present.
Now, I like what you mentioned. I like what you said when you talked about after auditions, you just let it go. Yeah. How hard is that to do? Like, especially with a role that you really want. How hard is that
it's a heartbreaker.
To deal with that uncertainty that after an audition, that waiting period.
The waiting period, and depending on the waiting period, and of course depending on the audition, the piece, there was one recently, and it coincided with our winter. I live up in the San Bernardino Mountains, and we had our snowpocalypse. What did we get? About 13 feet in a matter of 26 hours. And we didn't get plowed out for 24, 25 days. And so that gave me a chance. I did put an audition down, and oh man, I loved the character. He was a Swiss-German chef. and just an anal guy. I just loved the just the promise, the hopefulness of being able to do that character and step out of, you know, the my usual sort of drama, action, horror fare. And so when that didn't happen, it's a heartbreaker. It's a heartbreak. But again, gotta cut rope.
You mentioned that audition when you were stuck. So do you have a home setup that you like a home studio almost?
Well, this was Zoom, and,
Oh,
and
doing
we just
Zoom,
we just
okay.
did it over Zoom, and sent it in, and oh man, I was just so happy with it. But you know what? I have to take that as the win.
Right.
You know, the fact that I was even considered for the role, and as my agent put it, he said, "Well, you have a lot of new friends." I called him the other day and said, "How my friends doing, man? Everything good?" Haven't heard from my friends.
Are you amazed at that advancement in technology of before having to go out and stand, hey, I'm so and so, and now you get to do everything, not everything, but you get to do a lot from home.
True. You know, it's a bit of cheating for me, and you know, I'll tell you the truth. When I go into a room with the you know, full of producers and everybody, it's for me anyway. It's a little nerve-wracking, and that's not necessarily the case for all actors, but you know, I just, you know, I invest. If you're not giving 110%, why bother? And so I kind of miss that interaction in a way, but I know that, okay, you know, they say, okay, they open the door, they call your name, you're on, baby, you're up to bat.
I've met a lot of people who said that they do prefer that in person because they get to see all of you as opposed to.
Right.
Do you prefer that in person?
I think so. And I'm wondering and I'm hoping that we get back to that. And I think it means a lot to the people in the room. And in my case, so that's a 2.5-hour drive from where I am. I'm up in the mountains, and coming into LA is about 2.5 hours. And so I think they appreciate that. The fact that, you know, you make the effort and you come in. And I think that's true of any actor, whether it's, you know, 2.5 hours away or 10 minutes.
You mentioned your brewing company, which I want to talk about, Three Mar Brewing, right?
Yes.
How did that come about? Brewing and creating your own craft beer, and then boom, and then now into a brewery.
You know, it's a very trippy sort of a circle, sort of the snake biting its tail, coming back around. So last night I went down to the Guar Bar, hung out there. And
Guar Bar fans?
Yeah, and I closed it down at 2 o'clock, and I thought, you know, I'll hang out like I would let people back at my brewery at the tasting room. I'd let them hang out, but man, holy crap, that 2 o'clock came. Okay, give me your beer, dude. Give me your beer. Whoa. I'm okay. So I, you know, chugged it down. But going back to the snake biting its tail thing in 2014, I knew I was invited to go out to Rock and Shock. And I called my friend Gina, and I said, Gina, you know, instead of just doing the regular thing, would it be okay to, because I was getting into the brewing, and so, would it be okay to bring a beer out, and we can do a fundraiser? You can do your charities, I'll do mine. Mine was Smile Train. Hers was the Dave Brokey Fund. Dave having just passed away recently, so we raised money for that and for the Pat Brody Cat Shelter. I figured I would have been happy raising $500. We raised $1,500, man.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And the beer was called Gin's Hellebrew, sort of an homage to the gin, and it came in at 8.5%.
Okay.
It was a Belgian Golden Strong Ale spiced with Persian lime and roasted habanero. Man, it was good.
And then from there, what sparked into?
So from there, I realized, you know what? Everybody dug the beer, and I thought, I'm liking this. And so I thought, I'm going to keep brewing, and by no means would I consider myself a brewmaster, but I do where I come in to play is I come up with the recipes. I come up with the adjuncts that will make a difference in the flavor, a distinctive difference. And so I've kept it up, and I'm holding on to the trademark. The building is selling. I'm dismantling all of the goodies inside. But I will continue to contract brew. Mind you, you've all heard it's a nightmare in California, unfortunately. with taxes and so forth. I mean, every time I turned around, I was paying another beer tax, and so the overhead is just was just gobsmacking. It kicked me in the butt. So now I'll be able to contract, and that will allow me to go in, work under their insurance, under their overhead. I pay for the grain, I pay for the day, and I get it, you know, another 25 days it'll be in cans and kegs. And I'm not paying rent or utilities or any of that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think we need to have, you need to bring your product here and
I
sell it
agree.
at the
I
consultant.
agree. I need to, so I need to designate, I need to find 2 or 3 breweries out east that will contract. Not all of them do, and not all of breweries are allowed to self-distribute, which is the big difference.
Okay.
Because when a distributor steps in, that's 38%. You can kiss goodbye. And what that means is I'm going to charge you 40% more on the beer, which I think is, make sure, no kids out there, right? Little kids? Which is total bullshit, so, yeah.
I want to backtrack a little bit as you know, as we talked about you coming to the States at 10. At what point was it, either before that or after that, that you decided that you wanted to get into acting, into the entertainment business? What sparked that?
So I was a very introverted kid, really, really shy. Wasn't very gregarious, you know, just kind of stuck to myself. And so, but I always, inside I had that gene that some of us have, a little more pronounced perhaps than others, that I just needed to show off. And so what I would do, it was about high school when I started saying, you know what? I'm either going to be a spy or a stunt man. so I took the easier road. I became a stunt man. I was doing a bunch of stunts, started out that way. And then my father retired. He had headed up Goodyear in Venezuela. And it was retiring, and decided to retire in California. And he needed help. He was moving into a condo in Malibu. He needed help moving into his place, and asked me if I'd be willing to help. And what I was hearing is, you have a couch to crash on down in Malibu. so I said, hell yeah, man. You know, so I was there, and then I got myself. I took a leave of absence from Georgetown University, where I was studying linguistics and languages. And really, the truth of it is, I couldn't cut it there. It was just, I mean, they basically, linguistics, I'm not a mathematical person, but they turned linguistics, and, you know, as it should be, it was a science and broken up, and it literally it came down to X's and Y's, and I thought to myself, oh, no, man, not these things again, you know, these sort of formulas, and man. And so anyway, so I took some time off. And I told my dad, yeah, just taking some time off. And then the time got longer and longer. I was driving a limo, and I decided, my brain, you know, it just doesn't stop. So I needed something in my free time, so I started taking acting classes. And I went out just to sort of, you know, just to try my luck. And I started landing, you know, little jobs. And the rest is, you know, the rest is in Richmond.
Was there a particular movie, project, actor, person who inspired you when you were starting out?
You know, yes, and there was, and I'd have to say that was Walter Hill. I was fortunate enough to drive Mr. Bronson, Charlie Bronson, a few times, and I remember the first time that I picked him up at the airport. He stood back. And we shook hands, and I said hello, and I was too damn nervous to say anything else. So, but I didn't want to. So his wife was there, and he was waiting and watching, and so he was sort of, I guess, testing me to see how much of a professional, and in this case, how much of a gentleman I was. So I opened the door and made sure, and then he looked at me and he smiled, kind of, you know, winked his eyes and went around to his side. He says, I got my own door. I got my door. And so, so I drove him a few times. Michael Caine was another steady client, and he was, what a wonderful example he was. I remember taking him to the Bistro Garden to celebrate his, and he didn't win that night. I think it was Hannah and her sisters. He had not won, and so I went in. And I talked to the kitchen, and I said, I'm gonna bring Mr. Kane through here. You know, just letting you guys know, don't be flipping knives or, you know, getting stuff on fire while we're walking through. And I went to the table and just very quickly told him, you know, when you're ready to go, we're okay, we can go through the kitchen. And he says, no, Andrew, tonight we're going out the front. and he stood out there with the crowd that was waiting for him. Had to be another hour and a half signing, taking pictures with, such a great example for an aspiring actor. And so, yeah, those are my heroes, and really the people who have achieved so much and remained, well, themselves. You know, humble is kind of a trick word. I think we're all humble at heart. It's whether you choose to, you know, use it or not, you know?
What advice do you have for aspiring actors?
You know, get into a class. Get into a class where, and I'll never forget the first cold reading class, what the teacher said to me, you're in here, you're all actors. You're here because you want to be actors. When you're on this stage doing the scene, you're acting. You're an actor. And so I think getting that into my head was what just made the rest of it sort of a seamless transition, if you will.
Yeah, you're not aspiring, you are.
You are. You're an actor. It's what you are.
That's great. That's great advice. I love that.
Right.
Anybody here, any aspiring actors? No. Now, you have played a wide range of characters, from heroes to villains. Is there a trick that you use to try to get into that personality, that character, that mentality of your particular character?
Whether it's a bad guy or a good guy, I've played, I think, 2 good guys. Just sharing with you guys. I've never been so bored in my life. You can't even cuss. I mean, you can't do anything, or you've lost your audience. It was a cool movie. As a matter of fact, I think it was the precursor to Air Force One, and it was called Interceptor. It was with Jürgen Prochnow, and if you haven't seen it, and there's a damn good chance that you haven't, try to rent it or get it through Amazon. It's a cool little movie, and you will recognize immediately the sort of, I don't know, that it's the little twin brother to Air Force One. And Jürgen Prochnow happened to be one of Wolfgang Petersen's best friends, so I just kind of have a feeling that Jürgen must have shown him this, or that Wolfgang saw it and thought, you know what, we could do a big-time version of this, and which they did. And I must say, and working on that, I was so fortunate. What a beautiful guy Harrison Ford is and was during that flick. And he's all about, and as I believe that if you're able to do the stunts as an actor, do them, because that's the character. I mean, that fills out the character. You don't have to do any guessing. You don't have to step in the footprints of the stuntman that went before you. Having said that, I will give all the credit in the world, for instance, to John Alden, my double on Another 48 Hours, and I would never presume to take credit for stuff that I didn't do. I'll do as much as I can, but I'm not stupid enough to think that I can do the stuff that I know I can't, like you know, like jumping a motorcycle through a movie screen. Yeah.
Have you? I guess, what's the worst injury that you've had while doing your stunts?
You know, I've been very lucky. I think it was Another 48 Hours would have to be the worst. So we've just passed the bus with Eddie Murphy in it, and the stunt coordinator for the show, Alan Graff, who had a couple of cannons. They're called cannons, so these things were literally like if you can imagine a humongous gun barrel. And they had, the way that they flipped that bus over, they packed dynamite in these cannons and put telephone poles up there. And Alan blew them. He knew when he was going to do it. He got a signal. He heard the signal. He blew it, and the bus rolled. Okay, now the bus is it has rolled, and we're approaching. We're off the bikes, and we're approaching, walking toward it. Eddie peeps out, takes a shot. We dive to the floor. Now, with Walter Hill, we rehearsed this thing 6 times. On the day, we dive to the floor. I'm rolling as I'm supposed to, and the next thing I remember is getting a boot in the cat's eyes in those Ray-Bans, and I thought, wow, that stung, and it kind of felt weird. The set doc came over. He says, "Hey man, that's broken," and then I remember Walter coming over and just kind of saying, "You all right?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I guess when you play football, you get hurt, right?" And I said, "That's right." And he says, "Yeah, you good to go again?" And I said, "Absolutely." So they put some wax, some skin-colored wax on it, put the glasses back on. You couldn't tell. Yeah.
There you go. You rub some dirt on it.
That's right. That's right.
Now, you mentioned that again. You do mostly thrillers, action. Are those the type of movies that you enjoyed growing up?
Absolutely, absolutely. I of course. I mean, action. I was a kid in Venezuela, and I remember watching Combat, and that was one of the shows. That was with Vic Morrow. You know, that was one of the shows that they would have subtitles in Spanish, but you would hear the English. And my mom made sure I watched plenty of that so that I could, get the language down, so forth. But really, my first love, and I'll share something with you guys. I have written. Me and my co-writer have written basically a tribute to the Wolfman, to Lon Chaney Jr. And so it is. I am in the process now of, getting it, shopping it around. So that goes back to my mom telling me, and I think she did it on purpose. She said, "Andrew, you are not to watch the Wolfman tonight at midnight." So basically, I snuck out of bed and watched the Wolfman. That was my first love, seeing that and being amazed at the Harryhausen stop motion stuff, and how that hair grew on this. How the hell did that happen? Imagine a kid watching that. I would think I was 8 or 9 at that time. Whoa, pretty dang cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So do you feel like those are the types of roles and performances projects that you gravitate towards?
I think so. I think so, and I've been fortunate enough, and I like to push myself. I've been fortunate enough to play a total character, and I mean this in the sense of character acting. Total character. Most recently, his name was Eli. It's a movie called Stalked, and they had agreed to whatever comes out of these negotiations. So I think we're cool there. But it was so wonderful to play this guy who you look at now, and I had shaved the side of my head and I had tattoos on. So you look at this guy and you go, not a good guy. So you figure, okay, but the beauty of it is that at the end of his last participation in the movie, he's a good guy, okay. And I won't spoil it for you.
Hashtag no spoilers.
Right.
Do you have a dream role?
You know what? I tried to get over it, but you're pulling me back. I want to play a Swiss chef. I can't get that out of my mind. But you know what? I love the accented roles. I don't. I would love, and I don't know what it would be, but I'd love to do a biographical pick. Don't know who or what it would be, but that would be it. And really, it would test me, and I would like that.
So you mentioned, writing. You've written, produced. Do you have a preference on behind the scenes writing?
Oh no, it's in front. It's in front
of the camera.
Now writing, and in all fairness, full disclosure, I collaborated with my friend Russell Gannon, who's the writer. I enjoy, because you basically craft the character right there. You have all of the say in it. You go back and forth. That doesn't make sense. It would make more sense if this and that. And I am just dogged on my history for characters. So all of the backstory, all of the back history is really important. So I get to do that and control it, and again, give 110% in that effort. Directing, I'm not so drawn to that, but definitely in front of the camera. Yeah.
So it is Halloween time. It's Friday the 13th.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite Halloween time horror movie? Do you have any Halloween traditions that you do?
It's funny. I live in the mountains, in the only damn neighborhood that's a flat neighborhood. So we get all of the kids, all of the Halloween, and I'm never there. I'm never there because I'm out doing the conventions and the shows, and so all the kids in the neighborhood must hate my guts. Yeah, that cheap asshole.
Getting toilet papered and egg.
Well, thankfully not. Okay. And thankfully not what I used to do when I would go out when I was a kid. What a shitty kid.
So, as you mentioned, being here at these conventions, I have to ask: has there been a moment? And now you've worked with a lot of people on screen as well, but has there been a moment where you saw another actor, another celebrity singer, and you fanboyed out that you either couldn't speak or you spoke way too much?
No, it's usually I couldn't speak or I say very little. And actually, the last time that happened was this morning. C. Thomas Howell. I'm a big fan of that gentleman, and he is truly a gentleman. So suffice it to say, yeah, of course I fanboy out, and I do have my favorites. And I must say, it was such a pleasure to meet C. Thomas, and get to shake his hand, speak a couple of words, and then get the hell out of my own way because I didn't want to say anything stupid.
Right, you don't want to say anything stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be amazing to be able to meet those folks. I don't want to say idolize, but that you do look at on a different light.
Absolutely.
And for them to return the favor as well. So before we go, I feel like I'm hearing some voices or
yes.
Or something. Anything you maybe want to?
Yes, we have a surprise.
Anything you want to say to these fine folks out here?
Dear Cam, can we cue the lights? Thank you, brother. Now I'm going to ask you kids to do me a favor. Close your eyes. Travel with me on this one, please. And while your eyes are closed, grab your wallets, put them on your right knee. Okay. So, eyes closed. Thank you. Run, insect. Run and tell those you will what you will. Tell them there is something loose in their city. Something which feeds on wishes. But tell them quickly while you still have a soul. And wallets, please.
Thank you so much, Richmond. Please give it up for Mr. Andrew Divoff.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Milo. Truly appreciate that, brother.